Hello, welcome back to the Buzzbee Beekeeping channel. Today we're going to be working with cassettes, and these effectively are cassettes that you put into your hive through this frame holder, and allows you as a great alternative to building honey in a form of honeycomb rather than actually having a pot of honey. And then the great thing about it is once it's actually been filled in with the and capped, you close it off. You can then put a nice label over the top of it and use it for friends, send it as presents, sell it, and it's a great alternative as from a pot of honey, but actually having honeycomb itself. They come in two sizes, a 250 gram size and a 500 gram size. We're going to show you how you get from this stage, which is what you get from in the stores, to this state, which is effectively ready to go, which is a sheet of honeycomb in the center, and there's a various steps in order to do that. And then once that is complete, is how do we get them into the actual physical frame holders, and what are the differences of these holders as well to be aware of. So stick with us as we go through the steps. Okay, we've moved the frame cassette holder aside, and we're actually going to concentrate on the actual cassettes themselves. As highlighted previously, we have the 500 gram size, we have the 250 gram size. Obviously, the 250 gram is effectively half the size of the 500 gram size. It's worth noting actually the amount of cassettes you require for a physical frame. So in the case of a single frame, if you were going to have the 500 size, you need a total of 6 of these cassettes itself. So that's one there. If you're going to look at going for the slightly smaller size, and then you need to be looking at more, having a total of 12 of these cassettes itself. So just make sure you get the right amount of cassettes with each frame as well. Also be worth noting that you cannot mix the amount of the different sizes. You can't actually have one frame having a combination of 500 gram and 250 grams. We believe that they have to be done. If you're going to start with 500 grams for the whole frame, they all have to stay at 500, and vice versa with the smaller size as well. The actual foundation that goes inside, if you are selling this, the end product, to giving it to friends or family or anybody, being worth noting, obviously you are going to be eating the physical foundation that's inside it. So make sure the foundation you are using is the best quality you can get. We work with specific beekeepers around the country that we know are very reputable. So we source the beeswax from there. We then work with a specific milling companies as well, so we get it milled right, so we know the full process of where this beeswax comes from the bee effectively right to the finished product we have here. So if we're eating this, we're very confident in what we're eating. There's a lot of beeswax out there that is what I might call contaminated. They might have a combination where they are slightly cheaper in quality, but they might be putting in fillers such as paraffin wax and others inside it. So just make sure that the wax you are eating is actually 100% pure beeswax, as we have here. The actual dimensions to put these in, you can either get them directly from us or some other places, but if you're going to make it yourself, no reason why you can't. The actual dimensions in this case is 133 millimeters or 5.25 inches, and 89 millimeters across, which is 3.5 inches. For the slightly smaller sizes, like this one, this is actually 93 millimeters down across, or in length, which is about 3.75 inches, and across is 63 millimeters, 2.5 inches that way. So you're welcome to make them yourselves. We tend to use a cutter, something similar to this, which looks a bit like it's actually designed for cutting beeswax, so you would cut on boards. So yes, it looks like a pizza cutter, but this is designed specifically for beeswax, and that's how we use it. It's very thin, so it doesn't stick as much as some of the other cutters do. So that's how we cut it down. Anyway, okay, so how do we actually get this into the cassettes themselves? We're going to concentrate maybe on the slightly larger sizes for the demonstration. So we're going to put the smaller one aside. So this is one we've obviously made earlier. if you look at the actual cassette, this is obviously close to the finished product, obviously without it being drawn. You have an inner and an outer, so you effectively have two outers. And once these are obviously the final product has been built up and drawn out and capped, you obviously then put the outers over the top, and that keeps it nice and clean. The actual inside itself is broken down into two-part components. But when you're working with it and it goes into the hive, just simply get the outers, close them up, put them aside, and wait for the next part. So how do we actually get these in? Okay. So if we take one apart, this is obviously one you'll get straight from the store. Okay, take it apart, close this up. Putting that aside. And then you got this center part here. Now, some people don't realize actually that this actually breaks down further again. So some people try and actually get hold of it and try and bend it, distort it and things like that. You don't have to do that. So as long as you keep the dimensions correct and based on what we provided you, it'll work quite nicely. So if you get hold of the two parts and you actually just simply pull it apart slightly, very carefully, you will then get the two parts. If you look carefully at them, they are slightly different size. This one's slightly larger, which we call effectively the female, because this actually goes on the outside, and this is the inside that goes inside the actual physical, the larger part. So they are slightly different parts. The parts you're going to put the beeswax in is actually the larger one. So put it down on the surface, get a single sheet of the foundation, push in there nicely, and then get the smaller part, put it over the top, and close in. You do not need any glue, do not need some major distortion. As long as everything is the right size, it goes in very, very firmly, and the beeswax won't fall out at all. So that's one example there. Let's just do another one, or I might, before I do that, just show you this obviously one we made before. If you put the frames in, put these cassettes into the frames, they are generally going up obviously in alignment for fashion. If you have multiple of these frames side by side, the effect you're going to get is something like this. And if you look carefully at it, you actually have a gap between you, and they are on the top, bottom, and obviously the two sides, and that allows where the bees to come and flow through between those cassettes. So there's no problem about the bees accessing both sides of the actual cassette itself as well. So let's make a few more of these up. I'm just going to put some of these over here. So again, put it aside. What I tend to do is actually maybe get a few of them out. Get them all done, so it's only 6, so it's not too many. The process we're doing here is exactly identical to if you were going to use the slightly smaller sheets, obviously on the smaller cassettes. The fashion's the same. Again, they split into two parts as well. There it is. Don't need much force. If you put a lot of force into it, there's something not quite right. So double check what you're doing. Let's again, turn that bigger part down, turn the smaller one over, close, clamp it up, done. Like that. Over there, close it up, done. And it doesn't take very long to do at all. I think the key of it is just making sure you got everything in place, everything organized, and as long as the sheets are the right dimensions, it should be quite a smooth process. They don't necessarily clip together, it's more a friction join between those two parts. There we are. Right, there we go. So you have a total of 6 there as it stands up together. Okay, right, before we move on to the next part, which is effectively putting them into the actual frame holder, I'm just going to explain a bit about the actual frame holders themselves. As highlighted, you cannot mix the different cassettes with the different frame holders. They are designed specifically for that specific size. If I just show you this example, The key difference is if you look carefully, there's a little notches along the bottom here, and they're the same on both sides, the top or the bottom of the frame. It doesn't make any difference. The great thing about these designs, it doesn't matter, you haven't really got a top or bottom, they're universal. So if you're looking actually at the top one here, this one is designed for the 500, the larger size of the actual cassette. The actual gap between these is where the notches of these cassettes actually fall into the actual gaps here. On the slightly smaller sizes, get that example, again, I'll just pull this around. Again, you've got the notches here, and they'll fit inside those parts there. So it's like that. But as we're going to be concentrating on the larger size, we're going to work on this one here. Okay, so again, just be aware that the bigger gaps are for the larger size, more of the notches are for the smaller 250 gram sizes. The actual frame is universal. You can move it up or down depending on how you actually put the different clips on. Now there's 3 types of clips on this. There's ones in the center, which are actually universal. You have a bottom type clips, and you also have some top clips. The top ones look like this one I got before. Here we are. Okay, there's the top one there, and these are the top ones. So these effectively sit on top of the actual lip, or the little the routed bit, which actually hold the frame into place this. So those are the top parts there. I might move that slightly to the side, yeah. The bottom ones actually have clips, and this is how your frame most probably will come, definitely with these bottom ones on anyway. You just remove this very carefully, just a little wiggle, just a firm push. This one, that comes out. If you notice the slight differences between the two, so that's the bottoms, that's the top. Okay, in the centers is a little clip that holds there. So I recommend is turning it down so it's a little lip here is along the top. Get there, and you push it down, and that should open up. And that's the third type of clip. So you've a top one on the very top and the bottom again. Okay, and we've got 2 of those. Now there should be all those parts. So that's 1, 2, 3 type of clips we're looking at. What we're going to do now is actually split this apart. So there's nothing really holding this together, and if you look nice and carefully, you should be able to wiggle it apart. There we go. And now it splits right down the middle. So it's right down that part there. So now split. Okay. The great thing about this design, it doesn't matter if it's that way or that way. Okay. So the universal makes it nice and easy from that point of view. We only need one part really to start everything off. Okay. And if you look carefully, in addition to those little grooves taken out there, there's a little lip on the side, and on the sides and the bottoms as well. So that is designed so the actual physical cassette, when it sits in a position, it sits on that actual lip as well, so which helps retain it and keep it in position as well. Okay. So I recommend put it down on a surface like this and just simply line them up. The layout and the orientation of the cassettes are in a landscape fashion for the 500s. If you've got the smaller sizes, actually in a portrait fashion, so it's going to be going more this fashion. That's the layout, how it'll look. So just be aware of that. And again, they'll line up absolutely perfectly. Doesn't take long at all. And then, you know, if you lift it very carefully now, because you've got that lip in position, it should actually hold it roughly in place. I wouldn't leave it like that, but it's only a good example. Just make sure everything's looking right. Now you just need the second half of that frame. As it's universal, it doesn't matter which way you put it on. Once we've got now this joined on, we're going to now effectively put the clips into place. So we tend to recommend putting the center ones in first. It tends to hold most of the frame together. Being very careful just not to move the actual cassettes out of place. So again, underneath, bring it up, clip it over, turn around. That's the beauty about it on the table. Just spin around, and then up again and clip on that point of view. So that pretty much gives you a nice firm hold. But again, being very careful of the movement. we're going to make this going to be the bottom and this is going to be the top, so we're going to use the slightly different clips. So I'm going to use these ones for the bottoms, which hasn't got that extra ledge. That's there. Spin it around, and we're now going to do the top ones, which has got that little part on there. We tend to make this the top rather than underneath. I don't think it really matters. The reason why behind that is generally this bottom part sits on a ledge, so it tends to cover up most of that part there. So that's why we tend to have it that way. So there. Now if you hold it very carefully, we should now have the finished product. So again, that'll sit straight into the ledge within the actual deep frame box itself. Done. So that's an example of how that would look with 6 ready to go. And you just simply repeat this process up. Again, if you're going to have multiple of these frames, they are exactly the same size as a standard frame. Just give you an example. So this is of the frame. So that's the same sort of dimensions there. So deep for deep, and the width is exactly the same as well. So which is about 35 millimeters. That's be the same case. So if you want to put 10 of these in a 10 frame box, absolutely feel free to do so, and obviously an 8 and 8. There's no reasons why you actually have to fill the whole box with the same these type of frames. You can actually mix and match them. So if you want to have some conventional frames with a foundation, you can certainly do that and mix these. So it's a great way of, if you want to experiment a bit, rather than filling the whole box, you just maybe do 2 or 3 of these if you want to, and to see how it goes. And if it works, then fine, you can expand it. So you've got that flexibility as well behind it. So the great thing is they are not like a flow frame, which is a lot wider. These are same conventional as a standard Langstroth frame from that point of view. We're going to repeat the same process now on the smaller sizes. We've actually made these up already. So the only difference is, if I just move this slightly to the side. So this is exactly the same size, same principle. Again, 2 parts. Repeat it there. Smaller size goes in there, on top there, and we go in there. All done. So that's easy done. So we'll just put that assemble now on a slightly different frame. Same principle. So we'll go through the steps there. We'll speed up so you can see what it looks like. Done. So again, nice and easily, got it finished. So they're pretty good. I wouldn't shake around too much, but it gives you an idea how that fits. So again, we have an example of the 250 grams or setup, and we have the 500 grams setup. There's 2 examples. Well, we hope you enjoyed that video and you found it very useful. In short, it doesn't matter what type of frame you use, the convention's exactly the same. So as long as you've got the right type of foundation, the right type of frame holder to the actual cassette, it should pretty much be smooth. If you have any sort of questions about this product or any other product, please write a comments below. Appreciate if you can click like if you like this video. We are hoping to bring out a range of different videos in the future, so if you want to be notified about them, click on that bell. If there's a video that you like to see that's not being produced or that you can see it, let us know and we'll see if we can try and deliver that for you. But hopefully you enjoyed this video, and happy beekeeping.